Welcome, fellow gamers, to Sit Rep from Maximum Gaming, where we discuss news, current events, tournaments, and whatnot in the 40K universe. And today, an enormous thing dropped in the 40K universe. We've been waiting for over a month for this thing. We're around a month. The Great Big FAQ.
Yeah, it's been on a bit coming.
They pushed it out after Adepticon landed, but now it's here. The funny thing is the big FAQ, there's only 6 pages, which is pretty funny, but the bigger part of that is just about every FAQ was changed for every army.
And it did have big impacts on the game.
Yeah.
Or will have big impacts.
Yeah, especially the big FAQ combined with the rulebook FAQ. There's huge things. I'm pretty excited. Like, there's been a ton of stuff that I've been wanting to have changed, such as soup armies and spamming. That's a lot of that has been taken care of with this FAQ.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about it too. I like most of the changes. However, they pretty much did ruin the 2 armies that I have.
I know.
So
that kind of sucks. Why don't you tell about that?
The limitation on units?
Well, yeah. I mean, just like how that impacted.
Well, the main thing that impacted my army was the 3 of a data sheet limitation per army, not detachment.
And that is a beta rule, but it's Frontline Gaming has already said that's going to be in effect for all of their 3 big events. So if with them doing it, you know that most of their events are going to follow suit.
Yeah, more than likely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you had a Plague Burst Crawler army. How many Plague Bursts were in your list?
I only ran 6.
Sure.
But obviously 6 is more than 3.
Yeah.
So
what was the other army you were working on?
It was a Tau stealth suit army.
Oh yeah.
So,
which is I think probably the sad thing is because like your Tau stealth suit army had how many stealth suits? How many units?
It was 6 units of 5.
Yeah, so it was almost more of a fluffy.
Yeah, it was all stealth suits and then 3 ghost kills.
Yeah.
So I mean, it wasn't that great. But
yeah, like just kind of something for fun. You thought would be enjoyable to play.
Yeah.
And that's probably one of the worst things about this is that some of those like fluffy, silly armies are, and then units that like when I played you with my Khorne Demons, the skull cannons, like you can only take 3. And if you're going to do something that you really need to focus on, you may be really limited in what you can and can't bring. So anyway, let's get into it. Some of the big changes of the big FAQ. We'll start with that. They call it the big FAQ. It has 6 pages. They changed the psychic focus and the targeting characters as from beta rules to true match play rules, but they changed the psychic focus to not impact Thousand Suns and Grey Knights. They left out Chaos Demons with the pink horrors and blue horrors. That made me a little sad, but what do you do? Can't get everything. So I felt that was pretty good. It gave Grey Knights and Thousand Suns sorcerers a little something that they had missed.
Yeah, and it kind of fits the fluff too. That those were basically the 2 most psychically active armies. Like, yeah. Obviously, Pink Horrors and the Zinchar as well, but they're not as elite.
No.
Elite level.
Yeah, I mean, and like they still need to 5 up. You're so like, I mean, that's like a 33% chance. Not
right.
Too great. One of the really big rules in effect is the new Tactical Reserve beta rules. You have to have, it's not only just half of your army, but half of your power level in your army, and they can't come down. If they come down turn 1, they got to go in your deployment zone.
Yeah, and there are a couple little ways that you can game that. For example, if you took a 6-man Space Marine squad on the table, that counts as a full 10-man in terms of power level. But you're not paying the points for it.
Interesting, yeah. That could cause some problems. Because, that could really... What do you mean by game that?
Well, so, for example, if you're like a Terminator squad is 10 or 12, I don't remember off the top of my head, a 10-man, or so you would need a full-size squad, but you actually only need 6, because that kicks the Tactical Marine squad up to the next tier of power level. I'm making up an arbitrary number of 4 to an 8.
Sure.
From going from 5 to 6 to 10, but you only paid the points cost for the 6. You see what I'm saying?
Kind of.
I don't know how to explain it. You can increase your power level without dramatically increasing the points cost.
I see what you're saying.
Because you have to have half your power level on the table.
Yeah. I see.
But if you just add one guy over the next bump up point.
Okay. Bing. There you go. Yeah. Oh, silly gamers gaming the system. They're always going to do it though. I mean, what's funny is like this is going to change the meta. And something else is just going to.
Well, there's the other part of that too, or is that a part of that with the first turn? You have to be in your deployment zone.
Yeah, that's part of that.
Yeah, so that's another bit. That's
huge.
Yeah,
I mean, I really understand where they're going from. They're really trying to
limit first turn,
limit that alpha strike, that second person going second, feeling like there's just nothing they can do. They just get completely blown off the table.
Although it doesn't really affect shooting armies.
Not nearly as much, which is one of the complaints of this big FAQ.
They could just bring back Night Fight for first turn.
Yeah, that's true. That could easily be something. As someone who used Deep Strike a ton with Chaos Demons and other stuff, I feel a little sad about that. But it is what it is. You just kind of go with it and figure out another way to handle the situation. One of the big things I'm excited about is the new Battle Brothers rule. Everybody in your detachment must have a faction keyword in common that isn't Chaos, Imperium, Eldari, Ynnari, or Tyranid. That's something I kind of thought that should have been for a long time. Because I mean, like the soup armies, while they can make sense, sometimes they just got a little silly. And
on the Chaos side, though, it doesn't really affect. So obviously, demons are basically the only thing, because all the other ones share Heretic Astartes.
Yeah, it's more. It seems more like an Imperium, and in fact, impact them a lot, and Eldar a lot to some extent. But anyway, trying to get rid of that soup that a lot of people complain about. So I think it should be good overall. The other ones in here, they did a really cool thing with assassins, the prosecutors, witch seekers, null maidens, and the Legion of the Damned, is that you can put them in a vanguard and not have an HQ. So you can actually do those still. So I thought that was what was very interesting, is that sometimes GW can make a rule and not have the foresight to think about how it can impact the game. That was a pretty good foresight on their part.
Yeah, that was a good catch. Yeah,
because they realized that if in doing how they did it, you couldn't take a assassin detachment. So and some of those things. So I thought that was pretty cool. And the other big one in the big FAQ was the impact on Ynnari detachments, and they all have to be. You can have a Ynnari detachment. They can still use the stratagems from the different factions they have access to, but their detachment has to be all Craft Worlds, all Harlequins, or all Drakari. And which is kind of funny, because one of the things that I thought that was weird was how they still get access. You could have an Ulthwé Guardian squad in a Ynnari detachment and still use the Ulthwé stratagem on that. But which I thought was probably the bigger egregious thing, power thing, than just having other units in it. But whatever. And then probably there's some really big things in the main rulebook FAQ. A lot of things there that are really going to impact the game. In my opinion, mostly good. Feel no pain type abilities, you only take one. Mm-hmm. Can't stack any of those. The other big one, they gave +5 command points to battalion and +12 command points for brigades.
Yeah, that was cool. That was a nice change.
Yeah, I mean, for someone like me, I always try to go to that battalion brigade anyway, but I think it's good that they're always trying to encourage that kind of style of where you have multiple different units in play, and it's not just one unit over and over again, or just different, a more flexible army system. So I think that's pretty cool. So you're gonna see some pretty large amounts of command points in armies. Which is pretty neat.
Well, yeah. Now that they have all of the or most of the books out and all of the stratagems that they have. You know, some of the stratagems before that you thought were kind of cool, but maybe were a little too CP intensive. Now you have an extra couple CP, it may be worth.
You'll probably see a lot more of those in play, which is kind of the flavor and some of the crazy combos are coming from those stratagems. Let's see. Some of the questions was funny. If two units fire pistols at each other in cover, do they both get cover? Yes, they both get cover. You know, it's kind of funny. A big one, I guess that can come up later in the Chaos book. After one of the other big ones is after deployment or after a deep strike, they can't move any further,
including warp time,
Swarm Lord,
yeah,
any other. I mean, so that was really big. That's
quickening.
Impacted a lot of units like that. Again,
I don't know why they did it. I mean, I suppose maybe the quickening was the main culprit, because you didn't. I mean, with the Shining Spears at LVO, but beyond that, you didn't really see a ton of warp talons. Or
I saw another person talk about how they think a lot of this is for the new player. That new guy that's just going to get blown off the board by Gene Stealers at land, move again, and just completely wreck their entire army. Which makes sense. I mean, at the competitive level, it's going to be interesting to see how that works out and how much stronger shooty armies get because of this, and what other players try to counteract that. I think, like, for me as a TO of the Boise Cup, I'm really thinking about how I need to increase line of sight blocking terrain as much as I can, and just continue to work on that and make that something that is really important, because you need all that stuff now. I mean, if having been on what they call Planet Bowling Ball, where it's just a big open field, that can be awful when you're just getting shot off the board like that. The other one, the kind of charge clarification, that if you can't put at least one model up there, can you make the charge? And the answer is no. So I still read that as that if you can get one of them up there, because a lot of people would charge up in ruins and then wobbly model the whole unit up there. Can't really do that anymore. I kind of read that still as if you can get at least one up there, you could wobbly model the rest of them if they could reach. But, you know, that one seems a little poorly written in my opinion.
Yeah.
And Fly ignores vertical distance. They actually made that clarification, which is pretty cool. But you still have to be within 12 inches from base to base measured diagonally. Mm-hmm. So that was pretty cool. Let's see. Those are some of the big ones out of the main rule book. So yeah, I mean, and those are going to hit the game really big. What are you thinking about some of those right now?
Well, the flying one is the way we'd always played it anyways.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much the way it's been played in editions past. So
sure.
That's not really going to affect us here at all. And then the warp time one, if I was still playing my old army, it would have been a huge deal.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to affect Eldar the most, at least as far as, you know, the more competitive builds go.
Yeah.
Or you know what? I take that back. A lot of people were using warp time in the Thousand Suns for Zengors.
Ah, yeah.
So that's going to be.
I think Tyranids is going to have some problems with that too. They've lost.
Yeah, but they have enough ways to do it without that ability. Not out of reserve, but just like through their running the extra dice and doubling abilities and stepping into assault and stuff like that. Or it doesn't affect Gene Stealer Cult at all either.
No, yeah, that was a little buff to Gene Stealer Cult. I thought that was pretty cool.
So they're unique in the ability to move after deep striking, which is a nice little unique thing that they're going to have now.
They also clarified if 2 players have infiltrators, how that's supposed to work, which is pretty much how we thought it should be. They roll off and alternate, which that was pretty good. So yeah, there's a lot. There's still a lot of little minor things, but those were some of the real big ones. Now we can get into some of the Army-specific FAQs, because pretty much every Army that has a codex out, and even the indexes have all been FAQ'd. So there's some little things and some bigger things.
Wasn't there some point changes, though? Also?
Oh, yeah. Let's look at the point changes. The big ones...
Dark Reapers went up.
Yeah, I actually made a little chart.
Oh, you did?
That talks about big point changes.
Oh, look at this.
Commissars for Astra Militarum, they got better. Commissars went from 31 to 15.
Dirt cheap now.
Lord Commissars went from 55 to 30. I think that's because they're...
Why did they do that with Sly Marble? He's the same?
I believe they did that. Sly Marble was 65 and is now 65. I think that they made it an official entry.
Because he was
just a special release guy.
Right.
So he's like, you can take Sly Marble. So that's pretty cool.
Feculent Normal went up to 85 from 50
to 85, which is...
That's more fair.
Yeah. The Normals are awesome. Dark Reapers went up 7 points apiece from 5 to 12.
For their base cost.
The base cost, yeah. I think that's a good, at least a decent adjustment. And I think with the, combined with the 3-unit maximum, because like one of the real problems was the Tempest launchers, because like just spamming out the Tempest launchers
on 3-man units,
crazy artillery.
Well, you could still see one large unit to Flames of the Phoenix.
Yeah, but not nearly as abusive as it was before. Farsters went up 10. Spiritsters saw a big increase, which I think was
justified.
Very justified, because they barely went up, and
well, if you just looked at them previously compared to a Warlock, they were just better.
Yeah, much
and only
better.
Like 10 or 15 points more expensive.
I was thinking of the Malefic Lords, how they went up so high.
A Warlock went up to 55.
Warlocks are 55. Warlock Conclave went from 30 to 45. So that's a big, and I personally think that's justified because of the amount of powers that they have and can get off is very impactful. Dark Talons went up 40 points. Gorilla Man went up 15 points.
That puts them on par with the other Primarchs. So being able to hide is a huge deal. So
Biovores went from 36 to 50.
Does that include their gun? Do you know?
Not sure.
That must include their gun.
Yeah. The Hive Tire went up 20 points with wings. The big one, Fire Raptors, went from 190 to 280.
That's what they should have been.
Yeah. So that was obvious an oversight and chapter approved. And maybe they needed to sell a lot more Fire Raptor kits. I don't know.
Do you know if they changed the Forge World Hellhound?
In terms of its points cost, not that I saw, but we can take a look. Because I don't know that many of the other FAQs actually changed a lot of points. Let's take a look at the...
Did they do any points in there?
Not really that I saw. I didn't see a ton of them anyway. They added a bunch of they added data sheets for a bunch of units that they no longer produce, but I didn't see much of any points change in any other document. But most of them had like one thing that they really fixed in each of the FAQs. One big thing.
One of the big things was just that 3 limitation.
Yeah, but I'm talking about each army specific one.
Right, but that fixed for example, the Plague Burst army. That fixed it without having to change the points of the Plague Burst.
Yep. Tau Empire, what's one of the things that you noticed? You can only take
and I find it funny that they didn't remove the commander limitation when they implemented the no more than 3 of a data sheet.
Yeah,
Like, why still have that?
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Well, because you're still limited into, you can only fit it into each detachment, but it would have been nice if you could have took a battalion with your three.
Just take 3. Necrons, there wasn't a lot of big changes there. They clarified Satan Charge. You can still use your power instead of with 1 inch.
Yeah, they officially moved the Death Mark Lich Guard from the troops from the back.
They fixed that mistake. But and for the command barge and the annihilation barges, you can measure from the base or the hull. Sawtech was changed a little bit. Add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made by other Sawtech units from your army that target the same enemy that phase if you cause a wound. Nothing real big there. Craft Worlds, as stated before, had their big one was how their detachments work with Yanari. That was the biggest one for Craft Worlds. Drukhari, I didn't see. They're not my biggest thing. The 3 detachments. They are limited to 3 detachments in match play.
And they gave fly to the Kronos and Talos.
Yes, so that was really good. But if you're going to take patrols, you can only take 3 patrols. Astra Militarum, they changed the Cadia, Vengeance of Cadia relic to being once per game.
Yeah, once per game.
And they changed all of the Grand Strategist and Kurosakilla to only be, your warlord has to be on the table. So if he dies, you don't get to continue to use that. Those were kind of the big ones I saw in there. Mm-hmm. Did
we mention the CP change?
For a brigade and yeah, we did. Yeah. Space Marines, a big one there is they clarified Auspex scans that it can't impact infiltrating units, which is that was a big question a lot of people had. And again, the getting command points back, your warlord has to be on the battlefield. They kind of changed that for every army. Any army that had that kind of rule, you have to be, your warlord or that character has to be on the battlefield for that to take effect. Chaos Space Marines had some big ones in there.
Yeah, the Tide of Traitors got nerfed to once per game,
which is fair. I mean that's such a great, powerful stratagem. Which having used it multiple times at LVO, I thought that was fair. If you summon demons, you don't lose your Legion trait, which is pretty cool. And what was surprising me is there was a ton for Noise Marines. You can't use their music of the apocalypse, basically shoot when you die. You can't use it when you flee. You can shoot at any viable target. If you're shooting at someone you are within an inch of, and you choose to shoot that unit, you can only shoot them with pistols. Everybody can throw a grenade. I thought that was pretty interesting that they really kind of clarified that a lot. I don't know. It was kind of funny how many entries they had for that one power. They must have had a lot of questions from one guy. I don't know. Tyranids, they took a hit in just some of their basic overall rules, like the Moloch can't use its power first turn right now, and the whole Swarm Lord, we kind of already mentioned that. Those are not necessarily an FAQ thing. Thousand Suns didn't really get much. Most all the Chaos ones, it looked like they worded the kill shot better so that all the Predators get it against monstrous creatures and vehicles. Death Guard, this is another big one. Yep. It's going to impact the scene. Go for it.
So your Poxwalkers now, you have to pay reinforcement points to bring them above their starting unit size.
Which, having heard
effectively makes it useless.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's still a good unit.
Yeah, and it's not like, why wouldn't I just take another unit? Because you can go above your size on a specific unit. Yeah. So maybe they're... I just don't think you'll see it that much anymore.
Oh no, but I mean they were fixing the crazy
Yeah, the Walker Farm.
Yeah, crazy Walker Farm. I have never played against it, but just hearing about how big that unit can get to, and it can't be shot because it's not the closest and all that stuff. I was just kind of like, really, good job, guys. For the Chaos Index, they added the loci to all the heralds. The Feculent they clarified Feculent Narumaw's placement for terrain. It has to be can't be within 1 inch. So you can't put the tree on top of a building or on top of another tree, or some of the crazy things that people come up with. And they made plague drones, plague bears as well, so that can.
So they can be affected by the Scrivener. Oh,
that's going to be really good. I just realized that. Yeah. So they're going to get +2 movement and all the other things that the Scrivener gives. Wow. Glad I have you.
As long as you can keep up with them.
Yeah. But at least at that start, they're going to get +2 movement, so they can move 12.
If there's a tree, they could run and still charge.
Ooh, that's great. That's really good. That was some big ones there. And that's kind of the main one from each army. It's like there's like some of the stuff I did not expect them to put in there.
Well, the three data sheets per army, I
didn't expect that at all.
No,
that was
I kind of heard a couple people mention a little rumblings about it, but
I guess I'm so used to them kind of not fixing some of those things, but they hit a ton of stuff with this big FAQ.
Mm-hmm.
It's huge. What is it going to? I mean, because you're totally have to change the armies that you were working on. What are you thinking about doing?
Starting a new army.
I've been playing with this Tzeentch brigade, and I think I'm going to play with that a little more because I think that could be a lot of fun still.
You don't have more other than troops. You don't have more than
no. So it doesn't impact that list at all. I'm actually thinking about taking that to the storm. So if you want to take, I can't promise anything because I got to get a lot painted for that. But I don't know. I mean, some of the things that were kind of bugging people, not to call anybody out, just the giant spammy lists that could sometimes be kind of a chore to play. Mm-hmm. I played a guy that was had 9 Carnifexes or something like that, which I think you probes still do.
That's an interesting... Yeah, because of the units, for example, Layman Russes, which are allowed 3, but they're separate units. Does that count as 1, or does that count as 3?
Because for purposes of purchasing it, it's 1 unit.
Right, but it says you can use the... What does it say?
Number of times each datasheet can be included. So if the datasheet says...
Yeah, but then as soon as they hit the table, they're individual, and they would be their own separate datasheet.
Oof. Good times. Okay, well, we got a little conundrum there. But just playing it, having it some kind of spam list where it's just the same thing over and over and over again. It's like, okay, just wake me up when you're done with all your things that you're doing that are all the same. It can be a little sad sometimes. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, just, like, huge changes. I'm excited. I think it's I think the biggest thing I'm really excited about is how Games Workshop is involved.
Right, yeah.
I mean, like, I remember when... because I was an Eldar player when I first got into 40K, and then my Eldar, I saw Tau come out twice. The Tau Codex came out twice, and my Eldar Codex still hadn't come out. And then you would hear about you would ask questions, and there's just silence.
That was for years and years.
Yeah, for a very long period.
Well, they've never done anything like this before. No. The level of involvement.
Not that I've
been playing for 20 years.
Yeah,
over 20 years.
I got in end of 3rd, I believe, right when Battle for Mirage came out.
Mm-hmm.
So a very long time, but I'm excited. I mean, they're continually trying to do stuff. They're looking at these large events. They're looking at tournaments. They're looking at what people are doing, and they're trying to, at least it feels like they're trying to make the game more fun for people as a whole.
Yeah, I agree. Yep.
And I think that's a good thing.
Well, I think it'll also challenge the competitive players more too, and not just taking the most obvious, unit and repeating it over and over again.
It's gonna force them to try and come up with new combos,
right?
Use different units, and
so obviously the big winners will be the armies or codexes that have more variety of good units to choose from.
Yeah, I think Eldar's still going to be good because that's something I was thinking about. Most of those armies don't need to spam, because they have great psychic, great choices in each slot that they can really try and utilize together and have a lot of synergy. But yeah, the Drukhari is going to be really good. I think Necrons are going to be good.
I think, I've enjoyed them when I've played them so far. I've only gotten about 2 games in them.
Yeah.
And one of them was a silly mission. But
yeah.
At
least they should be. They're going to be intriguing. I don't know. I think who knows? You might see a lot more rock paper scissors type stuff where certain lists can hammer against other lists, but those top players are still going to be figuring out what to do, how to make it work. Which I am not necessarily of that caliber, but I try my best. I don't know. I'm getting more to just like trying to have fun and screw around with crazy lists and whatnot. Hence the zine stuff. But yeah. So you got anything else to add?
I don't think so.
Huge day for 40K. Interwebs have just exploded.
What have you seen? Have you seen mostly positive or negative?
I would say mostly positive, but the biggest complaint, the biggest worry is that the gunline army is going to become the new black. It's going to be the new thing that everybody's
because of the changes to deep striking.
And that was there. And the proponents against that are saying, well, that's going to be up to event organizers to have good terrain. A lot of line of sight blocking terrain. I mean, that was like kind of the first things we noticed when we were playtesting 8th edition when we got it like that month early with the famed silver ring fingered man who released the code. So we were all playing. I was like, you just saw how terrain was so important. How blind of sight blocking terrain was.
Yeah,
so
even
important.
At the first Boise Cup, we had done you had done a good job, but even then it was still not enough.
Yeah, and then like reworking terrain tables and seeing how that could work and what you need to do to make a really good table. It puts a lot of stress on organizers and stores to have really good quality terrain. But it's just something you just keep working on. So, yeah.
Was this just for the game, for the Forgebane, or was that?
They put, for Forgebane and some of the other things, they put points.
Did they change the points?
They changed some of them on there. I don't know what that means necessarily. Maybe because the Forgebane was made before some of the books came out. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I think that's the biggest worry that people have is that Astra Militarum and other gunline type armies are just going to rule the scene now. And I don't know.
Think so.
They may, but I think as a whole, it's going to be quite good.
Because it doesn't. I mean, you can't get the tabling on turn 1. Right?
Correct. Yeah.
And you can still drop in and do stuff on turn 2. So, I mean, as long as you have enough to be able to hide some things, I think it'll be okay.
Yeah. Anyway, so thanks for tuning in. Go to MaximumGaming.net for all different types of gaming news, and we're ramping up, doing a lot more videos. We got some shows cooking in the works. We're having a lot of fun with it and just trying to come up with some fun stuff for the 40K community. We think it's going to be good. So, thanks for tuning into this sit rep. Put together quite hastily in the last second just because we were like, we got to talk about this. This is great stuff. Yep. So, we're glad you joined us. So, thanks for tuning in.
Have a good night.